Is running having its moment, or are all Gen Z and millennials having their quarter-life crisis and signing up for a marathon? Regardless, running has taken up our For You pages. 4 years ago, I started my own run streak and ran every day for 400 days. Then started running races, 5K, 10K, half marathons. Along the way, I've been really blessed to learn from professional trainers, dietitians, physiotherapists. So I could stay happy and healthy throughout my entire run journey. Because yeah, injuries, underfueling, many problems can happen when you start running. So I've compiled everything I've learned into one video to give you tips and guidance on what to wear, how to fuel your body, how to train, how to sign up for a race, what to expect at your first race, and everything I've learned on my own running journey. Plus, I'm gonna talk about some of the darker things about the running community you're not gonna see on Instagram, so you can avoid falling down those sticky rabbit holes when you're on your own running journey, whether you're starting out for the first time or training for your first half marathon. Part number 1, what to wear. We're starting here because, well, you can't run naked in public. First, for the girlies, your sports bra. There's gonna be a few things you're gonna wanna look for. The strap. The thinner the strap, the less supportive it is. If you're bigger chested, I would recommend getting a bigger strap. It's going to distribute the weight more across your shoulders. Also, keep in mind a racer back. This is really subjective. Some people like a racer back. Some people like just 2 straps that don't cross. Adjustable strap, whether it be the band around your rib cage or the actual bra strap. Especially if you're someone who has a larger chest, you're gonna be able to customize the bra a bit more, and so I'd recommend looking for those. Also, you'll want the bigger the chest, the higher up neckline you'll want. Support versus compression. You're gonna have to play around with this. I tend to find girls who are bigger chested want more support, more compression for these longer distances, because you have to keep in mind, normally you're only wearing a sports bra for about an hour. Everyone's fine with that, but sometimes you're on longer runs or just getting warmed up for a run. You're gonna be wearing your sports bra for an hour to up to 5 hours, just depending on your day and what you're training for. For me, I've learned I actually like a low support sports bra. Why? I got no boobs. I got none. What happens if I wear a really sporty sports bra, the band digs into my rib cage, and after an hour or two, I have trouble breathing. Lululemon, I'm gonna give credit to, is starting to do research on how sports bras can constrict women's breathing, and I think this is something not talked about in the running community, but just realize right now you have to pick and choose. Compression support is gonna be harder on your rib cage long term, so for our little titty girls, I say sometimes I just use a low supportive sports bra. I use the Lululemon Power Y bra or the new Wonder bra or an energy bra. The energy bra is as much support as I'll ever get, or just a regular kind of Nike sports bra. Versus some of my bigger chested girls, I'm gonna put on the screen some ones I recommend for you. But just really make sure to look for a thicker strap, higher neckline, and adjustable straps if you have a bigger chest. And my little titty girls, maybe if you have trouble breathing, don't have such a compression sports bra. Okay. Pants are pretty easy. You got leggings or shorts. Shorts, look for some reflective details. I like a built-in underwear. Some people might want built-in shorts like spandex to just stop the thigh chafing. I like them flowy. And leggings, you wanna look for sweat wicking, because typically leggings, colder weather, shorts, warmer weather, because you wanna let the hot dogs free. Now you want sweat wicking because when you're cold, the last thing you want is to get sweaty, and then the sweat just sits on your legs, and then it freezes and you get cold.
Oh my God, this is the worst running conditions.
Sweat wicking just means it wicks away the sweat so it can evaporate into the atmosphere. And this is really subjective. Just try and find a pair of leggings that don't fall down on you and a pair of shorts that don't ride up on you. And that's really gonna come down to your body type. Hottie Hot shorts from Lulu are my favorite. The Fast and Free I love, but I find they ride up on a lot of girls. If you find the classic running shorts are a little too baggy, try wearing a biker short. Those, you can get the little grips at the bottom that will really secure you in place. And then you can also just be a legging girl. I personally love Wonder leggings from Lululemon and the Speed tights. I will link everything down below. I do wear Lulu. I find it is durable. On Cloud also has a great line meant for running. Saucony and Nike, but honestly, Nike's kind of shitting the bed lately. I hate to say it. Their shoes are great, but we'll get to shoes. Shoes, things to look for. First, the toe to heel drop. This is how much higher your heel is compared to your toe. 0 drop means 0, it's flat. Hot, like a 7mm, which is kind of average, is gonna be how much higher your heel is raised versus your toe. The width of the shoe, is it narrow or wide? Traction, is it meant for a road or is it meant for the trails? Then of course the arch. Some people have a very flat foot, some people have a big arch, and then you might need orthopedics inserts for that. The classic, there's a Nike Pegasus, there's the Brooks Ghost, there's the Hoka, these ones, I forget the name of them, and these ASIC ones I just tried out. Those are great beginner, $100 to $200, which is a very typical price point. When you're going plus 200, those are the more advanced. Now you're going to start noticing these fancy mother effers on the road soon. These specifically are the Nike Alpha Fly, and they fall under the category of a carbon-plated shoe. That is the most advanced technology currently for running shoes. It's a super light foam that gives a little extra bounce for someone running. Now, if you've been running for quite a few years and you're in that stage of your journey that you really want to start focusing on getting PRs, qualify for races, yes, consider these as a great investment. But for the average runner, especially in your first few years, save your money. Like, I regret buying these. I only did it to review for YouTube, and it was an awful financial decision.
They sound like rubber boots.
But I can't tell you which ones exactly for you. I'm working on a series on TikTok for you guys. But for now, go to a running specific store like the Running Room and get them to assess you. Because depending if you're a toe runner, heel runner, midfoot, how much your form is, where your toe strikes. There's so many varieties, which we'll get into your running form at the end, but that's going to dictate which shoe will make you the most comfortable. Because you're like, Keltie, do I want a heel raise or do I want a neutral? It depends on you. And if you go to a running specific store, they will for free assess your running form and find you the perfect shoe, because running shoes are as personal as comedy. Now, another non-negotiable, part 2, what to eat. Now, I'm not a registered dietitian, but I reached out to Renee McGregor, who's a registered dietitian who specializes in endurance athletes, specifically women, and this is what she recommended and the protocols I use before my regular runs. Pre-run nutrition. Ideally, you need carbs. Carbs are so important to endurance athletes. A main meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you'll want to consume 1 to 3 hours prior so it has time to digest. But if you're just gonna have a small snack, this can be something like bananas, cereal bar, piece of toast, or even a glass of juice, you can have that a bit closer up. So kind of the bigger the meal, the farther away, just so you have time to adjust. And like for me, I tend to love to have a big meal like 3 hours before, but if I know I'm getting up going for a run, I just have a snack so there's not too much in my stomach, and I make sure to get a lot of carbs the night before. Good meal choices would include oatmeal or a bagel with peanut butter, a banana or a small bowl of pasta, and some pesto. Post-run, this should be a combination of carbs and protein. Ideally, 1 to 1.2 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight and 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. This might include bagel of eggs with a glass of juice or chicken stir fry and rice. If you can't eat a meal within 30 minutes of finishing your session, then you can have something like a glass of milk, a banana, protein shake, and then follow up with a meal 2 hours before. This is something about pre and post-run nutrition. It's really eliminating the fiber. Why? You want things quick digesting. You don't want things to sit like a rock in your stomach before a run. And post-run, you really want to get those carbs and protein as fast as possible. So reducing the fat and fiber is just going to make it digest faster and just help your body recover faster. Honestly, I'm big bagel girl. Big bagel girl, and candy sometimes, just being honest. In-run nutrition. I'd say don't worry about this unless you're doing things above 10 kilometers, or if you didn't have time, I guess, to eat beforehand. But if you're running between 90 minutes to 3 hours, you should aim for 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. And if you're running over 3 hours, then you're going to need to increase it from 60 to 90 grams per hour. Tip, if you're someone who's running long distance, you never know. I have my running vest and I always just have a couple gels in there, just in case I run for 8K and I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling good. I'm going to push for 15. And then I can pop in a gel. And the importance of gels, why you need them past that 90-minute mark and intra run, is because you don't want to hit that wall. You don't want to run, burn through all your carbs, and then hit the wall and you can't go any farther. There's nothing for your body to utilize. It has to tap into that fat storage. That's going to take a while, and you hit that runner's wall. But if you start having those carbs every 10, 30, 60 minutes, depending on what works best for your digestion, you will just have those carbs before you run out of carbs. That's why it's important. How do you know if you're eating enough? You'll just know if you're eating enough because you're able to recover session to session. We'll talk about training later on, but if you just notice you're not recovering after every session, it's very likely that you are under fueling. Also, you should be seeing progression. You should feel motivated. And women, if you are losing your menstrual cycle specifically, yes, you can be overtraining, but you can definitely be under fueling. I would debate almost that's the bigger issues, typically under fueling. But once again, this is just from what I've heard from registered dietitians. 5, just carbs. Don't fear carbs in your running journey. I think a lot of people use running as weight loss, which we'll talk about the dark side in it, but no, the most important thing about running is you don't run to eat, you eat so you can run. For example, carbs are so important for hormones for women. Like we just said, if you're under fueling, your body's gonna be in that stressful state, which we don't want. We don't want running to be stressful. And when you're running, the reality is your body prefers carbs. It likes that quick energy, and it's going to utilize that the easiest and the best and most efficiently on your running journey. Race day. This is going to take some experiment. If I give one tip, if you're going for your first race day, don't mix it up. It's not the time the night before to go on Google and be like, what to eat before a race? And be like, yeah, Keltie eats bagels. I've never eaten a bagel before my race. Let's try it. No, you're not allowed to do that. I don't care what I do. You have to experiment and you gotta figure out what works for you, because I've learned that the hard way. You're like, wow, all these people eat these gels and they have Cliff Bars or they fast before, and you try it and you're halfway through your race and you're like, oh, bowel movements don't usually happen at that time. That's what will happen. Or they might not come, or they'll come too much. You just got to stay consistent. That's why, like, a couple months out, play around, figure out what works for you. For example, I just did a 10-kilometer race with my family. What we did, we had a big breakfast because it was like 5 hours. We were at the cabin, all I had available. So we had eggs, toast, berries, and I had a cinnamon bun. And some people would be very angry that I had that, but I was like, you know what? That's a lot of carbs. I know I can digest that easily, especially in a couple hours. So I had that, and then leading up to the race, this is going to sound like an awful nutrition day, but bear with me. We all picked our lack of fiber carb of choice. My sister-in-law, Kennedy, who actually has her master's in like orthopedics, she is a genius. She went to school for kinesiology. She picks goldfish. That's what she learned about in class. And it's just a very simple carb, not much fiber, not much fat, and just kind of, she snacked on that the whole way. What did I pick? Candy. It works for me. I'm sorry, it's like the cheap person's gel without caffeine and salt, because I do have electrolytes, which are very important. That's what I have. I just kind of snack on carbs. Once I get into that 3 hours before my race, I just snack on carbs that I know are just gonna zip through my system. And then post-run, I made sure to get like a protein bar, protein shakes, that was easily available, but just once again, the protein and carbs. And then the most important post-workout drink, I had a beer 3 hours after. I do not recommend, it is not medical or dietitian advice, but the reality is my favorite part of race day is the first beer you have after a race. And that's living. That's life for me. You might be cringing, but if you're watching this, I think you're in the running world. I ran 10K. I'm with my family. We're cheering. And then we go after and have a beer. And that first hit of that beer is what I live for. It feels satisfying. I just ran that race. I'm sitting with my family and we get that little, but I say, most important part of the day, up to debate. And I can already hear the trolls commenting.
She's recommending drinking.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not recommending things for professional athletes. I want people to enjoy their run journey. And if you want to enjoy it, just tell yourself, girls, we're going for boozy brunch after race. But make sure you fuel properly, have your electrolytes. Please don't drink a ton on an empty stomach and end up in the hospital and blame me. You're an adult, you know your own drinking capacity. Supplements, there's only two I really worry about in my running journey: electrolytes, and then I can use protein. We're not talking nutrition in general, but I just mean the more you run, the more you work out, the more you'll just want to make sure to up your carbs and protein and up your electrolytes, because you're sweating more and you sweat out electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and you need them. And trust me, you'll feel so much better. If you find you get really crampy, you could have electrolyte deficiency. You get really bad headaches, could be electrolyte deficiency. Could be the perfect time to have Element sponsorship right there, but it's not. I just genuinely am obsessed with that product. And it's my personal favorite electrolyte. Taboo, dark side of running, number one, talking about nutrition. It's sad in the reality that like a lot of people see runner bodies, typically leaner, smaller bodied, and they assume running equals weight loss. They get to eat so much, you burn so many calories, so the weight's gonna be falling off. And I honestly don't think that's normally the case. I think it's quite the reverse sometimes. The reality is, yeah, some people burn a lot of calories. It's hard for them to maintain their weight. They're a smaller body. That can happen. On the flip side, like some sports, your performance is based on your weight. I hate to even say that. I hate to say it, but the reality is some running, it's not necessarily true, but there's a belief in the running community that the lighter you are, the less impact on your joints. It's easier, the less weight. Just think of yourself with a backpack. What's going to be easier to run, with 5 pounds in your back or a 20-pound dumbbell in your backpack? Like that's the kind of thought in the running community, from 100-meter sprinters to marathon runners. So is it that running gives you that body, or that runners are forced to maintain that body, like gymnasts, swimmers, volleyball players? Like that's a whole conversation I love to talk to. A lot of like the pressure specifically women have of having like a lean, tiny body in sports, and it's not necessarily the sport gives it, it's the pressure that sport expects of it. And I think running is one of those. And so it's like a lot of women feel the pressure to have this body type when they get into running. And then some people get into running hoping they achieve that body type by running. And the reality is a lot of people I know gain weight in their running journey, and that's fine. It kind of makes sense that like you're going on these long runs and your body's like, oh, I don't always know where I'm gonna have food. Could we like store a little bit? I'm gonna increase my hunger. Like I would love to have a little fat that I could tap into on kilometer 12, and you hit that wall because you didn't have a gel.
Oh my God, it's so cold.
You know what I mean? Your body is trying to store nutrition for you so you go on these long runs. Also, a lot of people, this will ramp up your hunger like crazy. Some people running does, and it could result in overeating for some people. And some people, it's just they realize their body's happier at this place. There's so many different journeys in running, but just realize like running doesn't equal weight loss. Running doesn't equal weight gain, but both can happen. And you really want to eat so you fuel yourself. Like I said, I will keep saying, you don't run to eat, you eat so you can run. Running can be part of your weight loss journey. It can be the cardio choice, the zone 2 you use. If you have a very sedentary life, it can be a great way to increase your total daily energy expenditure. It can be a great way to get more movement in, and it can be a great way to have a community and fall in love with moving your body. The freedom, the accessibility, it's a great sport to get into, especially when you're plus 20 and you can no longer just join your high school or college or junior high sports team. That's why you get into running, and you need to fuel yourself. But there's a bit of taboo, and I don't think a lot of people talk about, and some people feel guilty when they start running and start gaining weight. And it doesn't mean you're doing things wrong always too. Like there's a lot of cases of those people doing those like marathon every single day for 30 days and they gain weight because they have to eat enough so they can maintain it. And that might involve a little extra fat on the booty, which we love. Just realize it's going to be different. And if you gain a little weight on your running journey, that's okay. If you want to use it as part of your weight loss journey to be the healthiest version of you, that's great too. Fueling is important. Anyways, back to the happier topics. Talked all about this. We haven't even talked about running. There's 4 different types of runs you're probably going to do on your running journey. First, an easy run / short run. This is like a 5 out of 10 on the intensity scale. If you're someone training for a 5 kilometer, this is going to be like under 2 kilometers. If you're training for a 10, this is going to be 1 to 5 kilometer run. If you're training for a half marathon, this might be, a 2 to 10 kilometer. If you're training for a marathon, this might be, 2 to 15 kilometers. It's going to vary depending on the distance you're training from. But the main purpose of this is like a recovery run. It's just kind of loosen up the joints, not be so impactful on your body, but still increase your weekly mileage, because training for any race is every week. You likely just want to keep training just a little. You'll need to taper off weeks, but just a little bit more to get you closer and closer to that ultimate goal race. And an easy run is just an easier way to add a little sprinkles of extra volume for the week. 2, intervals / sprints. Sprint, recovery. Sprint, recovery. That's kind of it. The recovery might be walk or a jog or a run, and it might be a max out sprint or just a very fast run. This is meant to improve your VO2 max and your speed. 3, a tempo run. This is a moderate pace, and it's usually going to be 5 to 8 kilometer distance. And the goal of this is to maintain a consistent pace. A true tempo run is about 25 to 30 seconds slower than your 5 kilometer race. So if you're going to run a 5 kilometer, a tempo run is about 25, 30 seconds slower than that pace would be. This helps with lactate threshold. Also, I find personally, I love tempo runs because they teach me how to maintain a pace. I think that's an important thing when you are on race day. You have a goal. You're like, I want to run a 5 kilometer in 30 minutes. I want a 10 kilometer in an hour and 5. I want to run a half marathon in 2 hours and 15. The reverse, there's a lot of strategies, but pretty much divide that by the amount of kilometers, miles you're doing, and you just want to learn to train at that consistent pace, because that's ideally how you will stay on pace in your race day. 4, long run. This will typically be your slowest run, but not the least intensity because it is long. And this is just going to prepare your body to run efficiently for long distances. Personally, I like to think of my long run as my game day. You have your short run, your interval run in the week, and then you go for your long run on Saturday or Sunday for me. I train all week to be able to perform my best on this long run, because that's going to kind of mimic race day. And the race day is the tournament championship. That is like the Super Bowl of my run. But regular season game is every Saturday, Sunday doing my long run. That's when I'll test how to feel beforehand, after, and really test those pre-run, post-run nutrition, what I'll do on race day. Now, distance for those 4 different types of run. Usually, running involves increasing your total mileage. So you might run, a 2 kilometer, 4 kilometer, and 10 kilometer run in the week. That's a 16 kilometer mileage for the entire week. Sorry, I'm Canadian, I say kilometers. Miles, do the math. Do the math. Actually, as a Canadian, I should learn to do miles, because every runner talks in miles, not kilometers. Except we do 10 kilometers. Isn't that weird? But everything else is in miles. Riddle me that. And there's a few ways you can add mileage. Every week, we talked that was 16 kilometers. Add 1 more. Add 500 extra meters. Add 1 kilometer more every single week. And then if you feel you're not recovering, maybe take a week off, do a little less, or just stay consistent, but just add a little bit more every week. And that's how you slowly, progressively overload every week and slowly adapting your body to longer distances, because that's how you can injure yourself. Your muscles and lung capacity might be able to run a marathon right now, but your joints might not be able to. That's why you want to slowly do it. Just adapt your body to the constant hitting on pavement. So you can just kind of, add a little bit to your short run, add a few bit more intervals, add just a bit more to your long run. Or what I do, because I am brain dead, is I just increase my long run every week. Short run stays the same as recovery. Intervals kind of stay the same. I might try and go a little faster every week, but I just try to add a kilometer, maybe 2, listen to my body every week to my long run, leading up to, if I'm running a half marathon, I might try and get up to 18 kilometers just before. If you're training for a 10 kilometer, maybe just try and get to 8, just leading up to it, because you kind of want to peak. And that's kind of my brain dead training mentality, because I have to be in the office at certain times. I don't want to increase during the weekdays. I don't want to have to suddenly be unaware when I'm finished. I like my weekdays to be routine, the same. I expect this is when I start, this is when I'm done. But Saturday, Sunday, the world is my oyster. I can take as long as I need. So I'd rather just add more onto my long day. But that's a personal preference, and not everyone's gonna agree with that. Pretty much there's a ton of training programs you can go online. If you're just starting out, I recommend just going and seeing Couch to 5 kilometer. That's a great beginner's place if you're someone who just wants to run a 10 kilometer. Lululemon, Running Rooms, Runners Magazine, they all have beginners 10 kilometer races. And they're not perfect, but it kind of gives you an idea of where you're at, where you should go, and how you should slowly add in a bit more running every week. And then once you start getting into the half marathon, if you have the money, I recommend reaching out to a coach or a trainer who can really adapt it to you if you really want to do it. But once again, there's a ton of training programs. I recommend, Lulu, Nike, Runner's World all have free programs where you could just type in training for a half marathon and try and give yourself at least 3 months to do this. This is something you don't want to procrastinate. As a procrastinator, we talked about a lot of running, but the most important thing about your training also is weight training. Common thing. People are like, am I going to lose muscle while running? Now, there's 2 reasons you'll lose muscle. 1, underfueling, not enough carbs and protein. 2, you reduced your weight training. Because say you're weight training 3 times a week and suddenly you get rid of one of those and add running. That's when you can risk losing muscle. So my recommendation I've always followed is when I got into running, I made sure to never reduce my weight training. I would just slowly add in running as slowly as possible so my body could fully recover, even if that's just one small run. It's going to be a lot of debates. A lot of people recommend 3 weights sessions a week, 2 runs, or the reverse, 2 weight sessions, 3 runs a week. Start slow with all of them and increase. But some people are only at the place where you're only working out once, twice a week already. So if you're only doing weights once or twice a week, I would stick with that and maybe just try and add a short run before or after each of them on a different way, a short run, and slowly increase that mileage. And I think in an ideal place, you're training weights at least 3 times a week. That's the goal to get to. But once again, it's starting slow and slowly adding from there. Don't overwork yourself. Just think a little bit every week. Just try not to reduce your weights unless you're someone who's doing intense 6, 7 times a week weight training. I guess your body is adapted, but I'd recommend reaching out to a running coach if you're in that case, because that is going to be a bit more complicated, but you're a gym girly. You're willing to spend a little extra money with that, and that's really get a customized program for yourself, because I just don't want you to reduce your weight training drastically, but at the same time, I don't want you to add in so much running that you tax your system. But if you're a total beginner, I think a great place to start is 2 weights a week, 1 run. And then maybe the next week switch it. 1 weight, 2 run. Or just start from 2 runs, 1 weight, whatever, and slowly add just even 5 minutes a week. Because instead of doing so much, you overtrain, hurt yourself, and have to start from square one. 3, I can't give specifics about weight training, but realize the reason most people hurt themselves in running, aside from running form and gear, is just muscle imbalances. We'll use me as an example. My right glute is a lot weaker than my left glute. So what that means, I'm constantly running. Around 10 kilometers, I'm fine. After 10 kilometers, usually my right glute gives out. I decide, you know what, I'm gonna zigzag up. I hop on it, my hip seizes. Just it's tapped out, but my left one's still growing strong. And so that pressure that my glute would normally be taking goes to my knee. It goes to my knee joint, and my knee starts flaring up, and it hurts and causes me a lot of pain. Now, whenever I'm properly weight training and really making sure to engage that right glute, usually that pain doesn't happen because that muscle doesn't fatigue. The most common really tend to be calves, glutes, core, and hips. For runners, those are the things to really focus on. So make sure if you have a running program, it includes all those areas, because you just want to focus on strengthening them. But I can't tell you specifically where your imbalances are. That's how you have to reach out to a personal trainer, a physio who specializes in running, and they're going to assess you and just give you little workouts you can do. But just a little baseline, keep it easy that everyone can assess. Make sure you have something to strengthen your calves, hamstrings, glutes, core, hips. Of course, it's going to be a lot more, but just make sure at the bare minimum, you're doing a little strengthening exercises in all those areas in your running journey. And just try to be conscious of both sides being equal. Like for example, unfortunately, my stupid right glute is so much weaker. Recovery. Science is actually now saying it's less of overtraining and more of under recovering. And that's how you see these professional athletes like doing crazy workouts, 2 a day, all this, and fully recovering. They have full-time jobs. They have hours a day to get enough nutrition, ice baths, masseuse, physiotherapy. Oh, they have all that. But they also prioritize sleep and nutrition and just the basics. So I'm not saying you can go balls to the wall and do all this training. You got to build up your training slowly over time. But along the way, you also have to make sure you're recovering properly. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much you're training. You're going to overtrain. First, rest days. You need rest days. Don't be running every day. Run streaks, you can do it, but still have rest days in your run streak. That's what I did. I had days that were so tiny in mileage that it barely counted. 2, sleep. You need to be getting enough sleep. Here are the 3 steps that I utilize to get the best quality and actually get enough hours. 1, I turn my phone red mode. One reason that just stops me scrolling because my phone looks unappealing. Like Instagram isn't fun when it's red. And 2, it just stops the blue light. And it might be placebo, but that helps me crawl into bed faster. 2, I shower or sauna at night, which when you step out, it lowers your core body temperature, which just mimics your body. It's time to sleep. And 3, the temperature in my room, which helps with sleep, and specifically my 8 Sleep mattress, which I am obsessed with. Now, this is definitely a luxury purchase, but this has been the only thing that works for me because I hate sleeping. I hate crawling into bed. I'd rather be raw on my couch and watch TV. I would. So I have no temptation to go to bed. But 8 Sleep pod cover, and they just released pod 4, which I'm so excited. I've been using the last few weeks and I absolutely love. I used the pod 3 and now I've moved on to the pod 4. I love it. The reason is it heats up. First, I have it customized so it heats up. So when I crawl into bed, my bed's warm. It's the only thing that excites me to leave my couch, go to my bed, because I know my bed is cozier and warmer. Otherwise, I'll just stay on my couch. Now, the reality is temperature, you have better quality sleep. REM and deep are especially deep, very important for recovery. You want the best quality of those sleep hours. And one of the best ways to improve that is a lower temperature. I don't like cold. I hate it. But what 8 Sleep does is it has an autopilot that cools in the middle of the night when I'm asleep, so I don't notice it, and it improves my quality of sleep because my mattress gets colder and I'm completely oblivious because I'm asleep.
Some new features of the Pod 4 I'm loving is it's first way easier to set up. Originally I needed my boyfriend's help. This time it was as easy as putting on a bed sheet. It also has a side button now that lets you snooze the alarm and adjust the temperature without using your phone. Plus, they made it even comfier. And coziness is the number 1 criteria for a bed setup, in my personal opinion.
If your partner shares a bed, me and Meg share a bed, he loves it freezing cold. He loves to crawl into a freezing cold bed. I love to crawl into a warm bed, and we both adjust it so it stays perfect for you and your partner. It is definitely a luxury, but if there's something that's improved every quality of my life, it's improved my running, it's improved my creativity, it's improved my work, it's improved my ability to go out and see my friends because I'm well rested. It is sleep. And the only thing that has really made me want to improve my sleep routine, like it has been the foundation of like, I'm excited to sleep, I want to make my room this amazing thing, is 8 Sleep.
Head to 8sleep.com/Keltie and use code Keltie to get $200 off Pod 4 and $350 off the premium Pod 4 Ultra, currently shipped to United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, and Australia.
Now, we've talked a lot about like the sciencey. This is where we're gonna have a little bit more fun. These are the things that you see on Instagram and you might be like, is this worth it? Is it not? First, music. I only run to listen to music. I'm sorry. It's true. If there's no music, I'm not running. Boring. You psychos who just listen to nature like a well-balanced human? No, I'm way too neurodivergent for that. Here's how I utilize music though to get the most out of my workouts. Number 1, sprints and intervals, all out. Heavy bass, EDM, the most intense music, those songs that make you want to sprint, that's what you save them for, sprint and intervals. And that's pretty much what I do. I have it off, and then when I'm ready to sprint, boom, put it on, turn it off. Boom, put it on, turn it off. Or just find those songs like on my second channel. I really try to make sure that happens. Like it's kind of calm. Sprints for 20 to 30 seconds and it kind of gets a little slower. I like to do that I have my Meg Thee Stallion mashup or a lot of my running videos, so you can utilize those. 2, if it's a short run, just throw on whatever you feel. It's 30 minutes, find a good playlist. I have playlists on Spotify for you guys, or just put together, 30 of your favorite songs and just go enjoy. Now, long runs, this is where it gets tricky. You can't start with those songs. You can't start with the songs that make you want to run. You have to start with something boring. Start with the podcast, chill music, a little Noah Khan. Get in your feels a little. Keep it chill. Maybe a little country music, slow country music, classical jazz. I just own a podcast. And that's what I do for the first 30 minutes, even like race day. It just keeps me at a steady pace. I don't feel the urge, balls to the wall, because that's what you want to avoid. You don't want to do balls to the wall and be bored 30 minutes into a race or a run and you're like, I got 2 hours to go. You need to keep it kind of boring. You want to just be in that, life's good. I'm a like 6 out of 10 happy. I'm not happy, but I'm not depressed. I'm just cruising. Life is peachy. You want that for your music. For me, that's kind of what I do for the first like 5 kilometers of a race day. Then the next 3 kilometers, if we're doing a 10, I'm going to increase it to that playlist, that short run playlist. It's kind of bumping. It's kind of, okay, we're getting into this. I'm kind of grooving. A little T Swift, a little K-pop, a little Meg Thee Stallion. Like bops, just little bops, just little, oh yeah. That's 50 to 75% of your run. The last 20%, those last 8 kilometers, 10, you're going back to those interval runs. I'm talking EDM, dubstep, Fred again, Skrillex, John Summit, remix Taylor Swift if you're a Swiftie, but I want heavy bass, high RPM, and I want to max out. And it's like this exciting thing to look forward to at the end of your race. And also it helps motivate you at the end versus the start and being bored. It's like building this anticipation. It's all about the build, maintain. A little fast, balls to the wall. Headphone recommendations, 1, AirPods. They work. You probably already have a pair. I want to recommend wired because when you're running, the wires get in the way and you will hit them and they will toss out. So a wireless headphone. 2, AirPod Max. Don't do it. Those girlies who are doing it, you look amazing. How do you not have chronic headaches? I'm confused and I'm worried. Whenever I've tried running with my AirPod Max a few times for the aesthetic and it gives me chronic headache and it'll also kind of like rip your hair out. So be careful with like the over the head headphones with running. It looks cool and it does zone out, but just realize it will probably run in your head a little bit. It could add some friction. You don't want your hair falling out. Not to scare you. I'm not saying just like, just think if you're constantly kilometers on end doing this, it's not going to be good. And also just heavier. So a wireless pod ones. If the AirPods don't work for you and you find they always fall out, look for ones that have like a strap over top of them and that will secure in pace. If you're someone who's like AirPods don't stick in, there's the hack. And you can also get little attachments on Amazon if you have AirPods that aren't working that will like hook them in. So there's another plus if you already have AirPods and you don't want to buy a whole new set of headphones. Gear. This is the pipeline. You just start running. It's got some nice shoes. You get a sports bra. Some running shorts. You know what? Girls, a belt bag. Those sunglasses look kind of cool. Yeah, then you start buying all this stuff and they're completely geared out. Let's slow it down. Let's put our money where it's most important. But let's explain why this gear is important and if you need it or you don't. First, you do want something to carry things. If you're like, where do I put my phones and all that? First, you can get a running belt. Those usually will fit your keys, phone, and a card. I don't like them. I don't know why. The pressure, it hurts my back. I find I can never get them comfortable. I put them around my waist. My body is just not built for it. Like my waist is really high up here, so I could put it there, but then I can't breathe. I got no hips, so it doesn't really stay. It's always falling down, or I'm tying it so tight it hurts my lower back. So I hate them. That's why I wear a running vest. It evenly distributes everything, the weight, and they kind of gotten cool the last year. They kind of make you look like a runner, so that's a plus. But reality, it's just a place I can put my keys, wallet. You can load those things. Like race day, I'll put candy in, I'll put some gels, I'll put in my phone, I'll put my AirPods, I'll put my keys. I'll just stuff that thing. I'm like, sure, a little element. You want? I put in some gum. I got the space. Like I load that thing, especially if I'm going on a long run. Throw in a bar, have some snacks along the way, make it fun. 2, sunglasses. You're gonna see the Oakleys. Those sunglasses, they look hype. I will be honest, I'm embarrassed to wear them. So I'm like, I gotta be such a good runner. So be careful. Sometimes you buy those things to look cool, and then you're like, I don't know if I'm cool enough to wear this. No one's cool enough, but at the same time, everyone's cool enough. So I wear them sometimes, and I'm like, you better be going fast or long today, Keltie. So they're kind of motivating like that. Sweatproof hat. Just key sweatproof because hats can get gross. And they will give you acne if you just keep wearing the same hat again and again, and you will get a band of acne right around here. Like look for a running specific hat instead of just like your classic New York Yankees, which I love. And sometimes you just wear it. Just realize if you're getting acne, that could be why. Running watch options. Oh, I'm gonna do a full video on this, but just know, number 1, Garmin. The most beloved, tried and true, a true runner's watch. 2, an Apple Watch, which I have because I like that it has more features than just running. Obviously Garmin that does, but like I'm an Apple girly. And I find the mileage and distance in that is pretty bang on. Yeah, I have the Ultra now. 3, if you don't want to spend the money On those, you can just get the Strava app on your phone if you have an iPhone and I believe Android. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be able to do a GPS of your map. You just have to have your phone in your pocket the entire time, or in your hand, or in your running vest or belt. Oh, and also those vests can hold water. I forgot I didn't mention that. Yeah, sometimes you'll want like a Camelback also you can do if you're running long distance. You can put some water, electrolytes in there. Speaking of which, Sydney, go drink some water. At least get Strava just so you can kind of have an idea of your distance and all that. I would say start that. Like I'm kind of at a place now, I don't always love tracking my runs. I sometimes like to just go run, and I just kind of look at like my total steps and kilometers for the day. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I think that run was about 8K. Sometimes I need that mentally, of like not getting too obsessed about the numbers, which we'll talk about the dark side of running at the end. Training, just 3 quick tips. If you're a beginner, a great running program, couch to 5K. 2, you need to be able to maintain weight training to reduce the chance of injury. 3, a proper warm-up can save you so much time and energy in terms of injuries, and it does make it more enjoyable. Like trust me, that first kilometer is so much more enjoyable if you just took the time to do a proper warm-up, some muscle engagement, opening up the hips, some 90-90, some bird dogs, some hip flexor, strengthening things. Now, running form. I'm not a professional.
So I went and got my running form assessed by Stephanie McGregor, a physiotherapist and running coach. Here are the areas she told me to focus on.
But there's going to be 4 main areas you want to notice. 1, where your heel/toe strikes. You can either be a toe striker, a midfoot, or a heel. Typically, you kind of want to be in that midfoot. You kind of go midfoot to heel. Being a heel striker can cause a lot of damage to your joints, but there's some people who believe in heel striking. It's actually just know it's very debated.
If you're a heel striker, do not panic and think you have to change everything, as that can lead to injury. But if you're a heel striker that is getting lots of knee, hip, or even shin pain, that could be the culprit, and changing up your foot strike could help.
Depending if it's causing you problems, you might need to go to a professional to get it reassessed, or just properly get shoes that account for where you strike your foot. 2, your hip movements. You want to make sure they're straight, and you want to make sure one hip isn't sinking. That's what happens to me. Like my one hip sinks down a lot more because my right glute is weaker, so it kind of gives out. 4, arm movements. You don't want it too stiff and tight. You kind of, every once in a while, just loosen it up. You want it loose, and you want your arms to move you forward. They kind of propel you forward, and with your core, that's what you really want. You don't have to over-exaggerate. You're kind of nice, comfortable at your side, swaying. Not up here, but also not down here. And then you want to be mindful of your body position. Are you way up high? Are you down low? Are you crouched over? Are you a rounded back?
You want your foot to strike just under your body, not too far forward, aka overstriding. Notice the red vertical line. Ideally, you want it straight up and down from your toes to your hips to your shoulders.
Rapid fire tips to sign you up for your first race. 1, give yourself at least 3 months, regardless of the distance. 2, get an accountability buddy. It makes it a lot easier to do it, and it makes it a lot more fun. 3, stay local for your first run. Obviously, not everyone has a place you do run, so maybe you'll just do a practice one, but I find traveling for your race is a whole added extra level of things to plan for. So for your first one, you just want to have like a baseline simplicity. So if you can stay local, stay local. The earlier you sign up, the cheaper. Just kind of like concert tickets, the last day is going to be extra $10, $20. So try and sign up way in advance just to save yourself some money. 5, race day pickups. So you're probably going to have to pick up your race bib the night before or morning of. I like to do it the night before so you can just kind of get it, have it all set up, take the cute pre-race bib photo day of, and just be organized versus like the morning of it. You never know. You just never know what's going to happen. There could be a long line. There could not. Just try and pick it up the day before. Here's a little tip from my mom. Number 6, squeeze to the front of the section. Usually if it's a bigger run, you're going to have sections. It's going to be like people who they're going to expect to run the race in an hour and 30, then an hour and 40, hour and 50, 2 hours. So you sign up for the race you're going to do. You're in this kind of little square on the race line. Now, if it's a smaller race, you're just all going to be cattled in. Either way, try and get to the front. Obviously, if you're scared of being trampled, but the closer to the front of that line, the more you just have freedom to run versus like you kind of have this awkward, you're in the crowd for the first minute or two just trying to get through, and if you're someone going for time, that's going to waste a lot of time. First run and you're a little timid, just go where it's comfortable. I personally don't think your first run necessarily has to be like your fastest run. I'm like, just try and finish your first run and just be proud of that. That's kind of what I did the first one. I'm like, let's just try and finish it. Let's just get to the end line, feel good that I signed up for something and I finished it. I first got into running races and I was like so focused on like getting faster time and being in these time brackets. And now maybe I'll do 1 race a year like that. I really train for. That will be my fastest one. That will be my PR. The rest I just kind of do as workouts. Like, yeah, I could do a 10-kilometer on my own for my long run, or I could sign up with friends and kind of have it like a fun Saturday activity to look forward to. So I don't always look as like race day as a race day. It's more of like a super fun way to get in a workout. Like I don't sign up for a music festival being like, oh, this is going to be the performance outfit of the year, my fashion show. I'm just like, oh, let's go listen to some music and dance. Sometimes that's how I like to think of races. Speaking of which, race day tip from MOC, start as slow as possible. Not as slow as possible. You want to start slow. There'll be adrenaline. There'll be music pumping. Everyone will be going out and screaming. And every time I run a 10-kilometer with my mom, I'm guns blazing out the starting line because of the vibes. And my mother is like, slow down. You're going to cramp and you're going to run out of energy. And I'm like, oh yeah, listen to your mom. 5 random but super efficient tips, and then we're going to finish off with the dark side. 1, find a community, either online or running. That is the best part about running. It is a great community. You can find any place in the world. It's a great way to make friends as an adult and just feel part of your city. 2, a run doesn't mean all out. Implement zone 2. A run can be run a little, walk a little. I think a lot of people are intimidated by running because they think you have to run like that red-faced all out from the start. That's not the case. You can just do a leisurely run. If you're starting out, just run for 10 seconds, just 30 seconds, just 10, whatever the case is. Like your first start running, it doesn't mean you have to run for 5 kilometers, even a kilometer, and run the whole time. Just be like, I'm going to go out for a 5-minute run and run 10 seconds, walk 30. And repeat that for the 5 minutes. And then maybe next week, run 20 seconds, rest 30. And just like every run, try and do just a little more. But like the idea that your first run has to be like a red face 5 kilometers is what I think intimidates a lot of people from getting into running. How to not lose muscle. Eat enough protein, fuel accordingly, and maintain weight training. 5, hair wash day. I'm going to say this because I won't call her out, but there's someone I talked to recently didn't realize that you don't have to wash your hair every day. Running, I shower every day, but I put my hair up and don't wash my hair unless it's hair wash day. I only wash my hair 2 to 3 times a week. The runs I'm sweating a lot is the days I wash my hair, and every other time I run, I just put my hair up in a bun on the top of my head and just wash my body. So the dark sides. 1, we already discussed, but you might gain weight, lose weight, gain muscle, lose muscle. I think that's just a reality of it. You can perfectly try and do it and make sure to fuel yourself enough, but be gentle with yourself. Don't be hyperfixated on the scale. Just realize it's learning your body as you run. Slowly become intuitive. Make sure you're fueling yourself. Make sure you're doing enough weight training, but also give yourself some grace that takes some experimentation. Don't freak out. Just kind of be like, okay, let's reassess. Why is this happening? Do I need to eat more protein? Should I add a bit more weight training? How do I do that without training? But I think just give yourself some grace. And I don't think enough people talk about like the potential weight gain and muscle loss, because it's true, it can happen. It doesn't mean it has to, but if it starts to happen, just reassess with yourself. Like, what's important? Am I happy? Am I healthy? And reassess from there, and just make sure you're eating to fuel your runs so you can enjoy your runs. 2, you might become obsessed with numbers. The reality is, there's a pipeline. You become obsessed with your weight, and then you become obsessed with your calories, and then you become obsessed with a certain way you look. You find running, and it's a new number to hyper-focus on. It's great. You can get these faster runs, and you can run at certain paces, and you can run distance, and you run farther and farther and farther, but that can also lead to dark things. It can lead to overtraining, unless of course you're like a professional athlete and that's part of your job, is being hyper focused on a specific number. But for the regular person just getting into running, just be aware of it and just like always give yourself grace. Like I always just check in with myself. I'm like, Keltie, can you go on a run without your Apple Watch? No, it doesn't count. Doesn't count. Didn't use my Apple Watch. Didn't count. No point. Reassess that. And that's why I even said sometimes I just like to not turn on my Apple Watch and just go. Give a rough idea so I'd only start cranking out crazy distances or just like under training. Reality is I think some people become way too hyper focused on just like PRs, running distances, all that, which also is just kind of takes the fun out of just going out and listening to music and vibes. 3, you can easily injure yourself. It is a repetitive motion on concrete. It's just 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step on concrete for multiple miles in time. If you have muscle imbalances, if you've not properly strengthened your joints, if you don't have proper running gear, you can injure yourself. But once again, we talked about at the start ways to avoid injury by weight training, properly fueling, gear, and running form, and slowly adding distance instead of going 0 to 100. That's how you avoid the potential injury. Number 4, you have to put your ego aside. You have to know when to run slow. You have to know when to recover. You have to learn that, yes, even though the running thing said this and this girl on Instagram has this awesome outfit and she just ran 15K and I want to be her. She might have been training for a lot longer. It might be her long run. You might not be in that stage of your cycle. You might see someone sprint by you and you're like, oh, I'm on my slow run, but they're sprinting. I want to sprint. I want to beat them. You have to put your ego aside. You have to think no one's judging you. You have to just put your ego aside. With running, there's a little harsh. I'm gonna be a little harsh truth. Running is humbling. It's out in public. You're gonna be running different paces. You're gonna see people whipping by you. You're gonna see people sprinting. It could be the last 20 seconds of their, PR time they're going for versus you're like, I'm going my slow recovery run and then you're like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to beat them. Put that ego aside. Put it aside. If you're someone who's starting out and you're embarrassed, it's okay. No one's actually paying that much attention. We have to put our egos aside at running, and you have to do what works for you. And it's hard, and it's hard for me sometimes. Like I've gone on these slow runs and people are sprinting by me and I'm like, oh, someone's gonna see me not sprinting and they're gonna be like, Keltie's so slow. Or like sometimes I stop and walk because I feel like walking. I'm like, oh my God, play all these mind games. Like, ego aside, who cares? It's your running journey. Do what works for you. Unless it's race day, then beat them. And those are my running tips. Any of my runners down below, comment any tips you have. If you're training for a 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, half marathon, Ironman, whatever it is, comment down below. I would love to hear what you guys are training for. Right now, I'm enjoying the summer. I'm not really training for anything specific this year. I originally thought I'm gonna get into this run season and train for a marathon. And then I got invited to do a lot of 10 kilometers and I was trying to time it out. And I was like, why can't I just have fun? I'm gonna sporadically do 10 kilometers throughout the year. I'm just gonna run for fun and I'm going to build up my right glute. Right now, it is way too weak to do a marathon. If I do it, I could, but it will be very painful because of that right glute. So I'm spending the next year slowly upping my mileage. So hopefully in a year, it'll be in a good place to do a marathon. And also I just want to have a year of enjoying running and having friends be like, there's a 10K in Burnaby next weekend. You want to do it? I'm like, yeah, let's go do it. And I'm thinking of running as how I used to think of music festivals because we're all going through a quarter life crisis. Gen Z millennials, aren't we? This is cute. This is cute of us. Good luck on your running journey, even if it's just running 10 seconds today. I'm proud of you. And if you're going for your first marathon, half, 10 kilometer, 5, get it. Let me know how it goes. If you're like, I don't have anyone to break to, you can break to me. You can comment there and I will go and I'll be your #1 hype girl because I love it. And if you see me at a race, come give a high five. Have a great day. Go pet dog. Love you guys. Bye.